it's always a topic, man. Like when I talk about that kind of stuff, people don't want to have conversations with me anymore. But because they think I'm reading minds, it's almost hard to be upset at people because you understand what's triggering that person. We can't leave out ourselves from the equation, right? We can't just absolutely listen to what other people have to say, what they've done, what their experience is, because it may not be in alignment with the stuff that we want as individuals, as human beings. If we're logical all the time and we forget about that human connection, if we're nuts and bolts all the time, we forget about the art side.
This is the Mr. Brrrr Show.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Man, I got a treat for you today. If you are watching this on YouTube, you see I'm wearing a blazer. Mr. Brrrr never wears blazers. I never really dress up, but I got to be on point today because the man across from me has made millions of dollars reading people, reading body language, reading little cues that he can use to actually build communication with them and then actually bring them value with selling real estate, wholesale, retail. He has a coaching platform. He's a wizard at systems and processes. So we're going to jump into all that, and it is going to be so much value. So stay tuned. Without further ado, Rafael Cortez. Welcome to the show, brother.
Brother, thanks so much for that intro, man. It's a blast being here.
Of course, man.
We go. I'm slacking on the blazer thing, but he looks sharp as always,
dude. This is new, man. I just don't do this very often.
Yeah.
You know, but
I feel so special right now.
I've got the blazer, so I'm like, why not wear it, right?
Yeah.
But dude, let's kind of jump into your story. Obviously, firefighter at like 19, right? And then you owned your own transportation company and transition to real estate. So just kind of get into it so everyone kind of knows your background a little bit.
So I started early. I mean, I feel like entrepreneurs, we have that itch, right? Like, you know, you're 7, 8, 9 years old, you're kind of figuring stuff out as a kid, and that just, you know, transpires into adulthood. But yeah, at 19, I became one of the youngest firefighters in Yuma, and I think that was a gateway to a lot of learning in both life. And it just kind of expedited the maturity process because you get to see a lot of things when you're out in the field, uncontrolled environments, you know, fires, loss, winds, you know, that kind of stuff. And
losses in
I
like
mean,
people
life,
dying.
Yeah, people dying, life. I mean, you know, material assets, people having everything and then getting burdened out with, you know, no insurance, that type of stuff, right? So you sit there and then you're at 19, it becomes a thing to start contemplating that kind of stuff, right? Like, man, like the stuff that I'm worrying about, it's like it's nowhere near this.
Does it really matter?
Yeah, exactly. So it's almost it puts you on the front line of really valuing things, people, situations. Gratitude comes in almost as, you know, second nature. I feel like when you're in that space because you're exposed to it, right, all the time. So mixed with that, and then having a couple of good you know, people who I looked up to within the fire department, captains and that sort of thing, I think just kind of steered me on and kind of, you know, pushed me and into that, more into that entrepreneur, and I want to do my own thing, you know, kind of role, the confidence, the desire, you know, type of deal.
Got it.
I grew up with a single mom, so I didn't have that father figure to follow the, you know, the footsteps. But I did have a lot of people around me growing up that just kind of, you know, came in and steered me back when I was, you know, being a knucklehead.
Yeah, which is good. We're all there at some point, right?
Yeah.
You touched on like entrepreneurship is kind of something you build from a young age. Did you have any businesses at a young age? Like businesses, you're not nothing crazy, but
yeah. I mean, I did. I had a car dealership when I was 7 years old, and no, I didn't.
I was like, what?
Yeah, I built a bank at 5.
Tonka toys?
Yeah, Tonka toys. No, but I mean, I would always hustle. Like I'd be, I mean, I think a lot of guys out there have, you know, the hustle story when they're, you know, in school and they're growing up, and I'd be the kid that would, you know, there were these things. I don't know what, I mean, in Mexico we call them tazos, but they were like this little, you know, circles that you just kind of slapped on the floor and flipped them, and you took them as coins, and it was a game, right? But anyways, they were super coveted.
I think it was called Pongs here.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, so they were super coveted, right? Like, and they were like, you know, the more you had, the like, it was like almost like a mark of wealth in the playground. So that was one of my first
in the hood.
in the hood. One of my first things. I mean, I got really good at that. So I would just beat all the kids, get them all, and then I would resell them back to them. That kind of that kind of stuff.
Nice.
But it just. I think it plants seeds, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing. A lot of people do, lemonade stands and whatnot. But as we're going through this process of growing up and understanding how our psyche is going to develop down the road, like you look back and then you see, like, wow, a lot of these traits were in there, and they were just, they look like something different. But it's all about planting seeds as we go through it. I love doing that with my kids now. Plant seeds, not necessarily give them everything in a platter, right? Or served. And but I like to plant seeds to see where their tenacity is going to take them, to see where their creativity is going to take them.
Right.
And I think, I had a lot of room to play with that kind of stuff when I was growing up.
That's money. Because so many people, I think I fall victim to this a lot, is when you have kids, you want to like tell them how to do something how you would do it.
Yeah.
They're a completely different person. So they might do things with certain circumstances completely different than you.
Yeah.
Not that it's wrong or right. They might get to the same outcome, but they got there a different way.
Yeah.
Right? So empowering them to make their own choices is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it is. A lot of the times I feel like that can be harder than walking them through the process, right? We feel like this is the safer road. But I mean, dude, there comes a point in life where everybody branches out.
Yeah.
Right? You go off on your own, and if you don't have the skill set to survive when you're going out, out on your own, the world's not going to be nice to you.
Oh, 100%.
So it's not that, I'm a jerk to my kids or anything, but, they got to earn their way. They got to.
You wanted to see them fail.
Exactly. Like build some skin. One of my captains used to tell me, like, anything, anytime I went through something that sucked at the firehouse, he would look at me and was like, hey, just build thicker skin.
I love that. Do you use a lot of your psychology background with your kids?
Yeah, I do. The thing is that at this point it's really cool because for like my oldest son, he looks at my stuff all the time, and and he uses that kind of stuff against me. Like, no, Dad, on this podcast, or you were talking about this or this reel or whatever, and you were talking about doing this and that. Like, so I try to understand them through my psychology background, right? But they're really good about mirroring and like putting stuff and holding me accountable to things.
That's
so
money.
it's always a two-way street, man. Like if we're it doesn't matter that that we're the old ones in the house, right? Like we're gonna learn from our kids just as much as they're gonna learn from us if we allow it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I wish that actually my daughter watched my stuff more.
Yeah.
Because she'd learn some stuff. But I feel like anytime I say something, it's kind of just like in one ear, out the other.
Yeah.
But someone else could say the exact same thing, and she'll take it just because like I'm dad. So it's like I don't know.
So this is how I got sneaky about that. All right, and I started taking my son to events. So I wouldn't tell him, like I wouldn't try to shove a lesson down his throat, right? I wouldn't tell him, do this because it's the right thing, or watch this video and you're gonna learn this because I talk. Like it wasn't me telling him stuff. But I mean, I'm posting all the time. I try to add value, to just about everybody I come across. And we'd go to events, and I would speak on stage and get off stage, and then you'd have the people around me telling him, oh, I learned this and this from your dad, or dad posted this, or he helped me out in this part, So it's almost like me standing right there, but third parties telling him to pay attention, and he started to get curious. Like that's just what happened. So it was directly telling him.
I love it. You had other people putting you on a pedestal to your kid.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
because he was just exposed, right? But I started taking him, to events with me, to, meetups and just anywhere, like ops meetings with my team and strategy meetings and stuff like that. So high level conversations, just putting him in the room. So he would get exposed to that kind of stuff and then plant seeds again. Plant seeds. So
I love it.
It's pretty cool. I mean, they get to a point where they have their own thing going on, their own, beliefs, their own, they start getting hard-headed around 16, 17, about who they are.
For sure.
So
I'm noticing that now.
Yeah.
My daughter's about to be 16.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's rough.
So yeah, I know. Tell me about it, bro.
So For those of you who don't know, Rafael has how many degrees in psychology?
Two master's degrees in.
Master's degrees.
Yeah, so I have one in general psychology and then one in organizational psychology, which is business psychology.
Got it. Okay, so organizational psychology is business. Everything else is just body language. So like if I did this, you could tell something about me, or if I did this, or talk about that.
Yeah, so it's always a topic, man. Like when I talk about that kind of stuff, people don't want to like have conversations with me anymore, but because they think I'm reading minds. It's like it doesn't work that way, right? But
it's just tendencies, right?
Yeah, it's behavioral tendencies. We have behavioral strengths. I mean, we're wired in certain ways, right? I feel like the most simple way to just kind of portray, because we can go into Drake Myers and all kinds of these assessments, but they become complex with so many personality profiles and that sort of thing. I mean, if you go back to regular DISC, everything is derived from DISC, which is it's for the main behavioral profiles, right? Like everything kind of subsides from that because you have subsets. But if we understand that we're behavioral algorithms, like there's based on two things. Like this is, I guess this is the simplest way to put it, right? But we're wired out of the box with a certain set of attitudes, behaviors, triggers, and like that's why you have babies who are 7 months old and they get triggered about the bottle. And some other babies are super peaceful when they don't have the bottle. Like there's different things. There's no life context in them yet to really influence that behavior. Yet they're acting that way, right? Like, oh, my kid is a happy kid. My kid is because we're wired automatically with certain things. Now as we grow, so that's a primary. Call that a primary behavioral. Trigger, or not trigger, but part of your, like that's half of your profile. Now the second portion comes in through experiences. As we grow up, I mean, how tenacious we get about life, it's got to be on the context. I mean, were we exposed to a lot of challenges? Were we exposed to opportunities where we had to show up? Where we handed everything and everything was easy. So, tenacity levels are going to be, set to this threshold, right? Positivity levels are going to be set to this threshold. So your environment kind of creates that second half, right? So between the two, that wiring out of the box and then the context of the space that we grew up in, like you're going to have a pretty decent picture of how somebody just understands life, like what their perspective in life is. Does that make sense?
And can that change?
Absolutely. Your context changes. So
just based on experiences. So it's adding to that first, like inherited trait.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So that second can change, and then that first can get tamed or exposed. Think about us. I don't know. 5 years ago, we met. What, 4 or 5 years ago?
4 years.
4 years ago. Yeah, think about like the context that we were all in. We were definitely in that hustle stage and trying to make stuff happen and making connections. Right. So our context about life, our idea about life, how far we could get in life was set to this one threshold. Right. Call it a thermostat. That context got expanded. Why? Because of opportunities, because of action, because of the people that we met along the way. Successes, failures, challenges, all that stuff, right? So now, if you look at yourself, who you are now to who you were 4 years ago, is that the same guy?
Man, guys, this is crazy. I was actually thinking about this today.
Yeah.
And I know you're big on energy. Like I have an energy, you have an energy, but there's an energy in the room. There's an
collective, yeah.
There's always three energies at all times, right?
Yeah.
You're a big believer of that. We've talked about this before. And it's crazy. I was literally thinking about this today on the stairs. So I get up super early, 4 a.m., and I do my workout first thing in the morning because I want to get it done so I don't make excuses throughout the day.
Right.
So I get to the gym. I do the stairs every day. I'll work out, not every day, but stairs every day because I can multitask. I can do my text messages. I can respond to emails. I can think of video ideas for my social media. So this morning, I'm on the stairs, and I'm thinking, man, 4 or 5 years ago, so 2018.
Yeah.
Who was I? Was I the same dude that I am now? And I would like to think so. Like my character, the same kind of fun-loving person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. But other attributes of me, polar opposite. Like some people back from 2018, if they hadn't seen me in 5 years and they see me and hang out with me today, they'd be like, dude, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
Right? Bro, mind blown right now. Guys, we're going to get into a lot of the energy stuff because me and you can go for hours on that, right?
Let's do it.
We gotta definitely keep it to about an hour, but we could go for hours. So we're going to get to that. Touch on with DISC. There's 4 different profiles. What are they?
So you have DISC, it's an acronym, right? DISC. You have the driver profile, which is your authoritative personality. The I is the interactive personality. So you have, the people who just kind of fall in every space. They can, start up a conversation with somebody else like right away, that sort of thing. Very social oriented. And the S is the steady profile, supportive profile. It's more of a mellow,
like a motherly type.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing, they're very people oriented, and very emotionally in tune. Okay. So, and then you have the C, which is your calculating or compliant profile. It's
analytical person.
Yeah, analytical personality. Okay. So it's not compliant in the sense of I abide by everything, but it's to their own to their environment. So how how heavy do they get into analysis of things? They're very task oriented, right? So those are the 4 major profiles, right? But the thing is that we have primaries and we have secondaries, and then you have subsets. So when you throw
that's
those,
where it can start getting
that's
confusing.
where it gets confusing. So you one thing that I see often is like, oh, you're a driver, and then they start tagging you as a driver, and then it means like, no, that's it. Like that's all you have. But it's the context is, the reality is different, right? We're everything depending on where we're at. I mean, for example, if I put you in a tight spot. Heck, let's go one-on-one at the gym, right? And we're maxing out, and you're spotting me, I'm spotting you, and we're getting into this intense, like we get into that driver profile real quick, right?
Got it.
Like that driver personality. If you put us in a mixer or in a meetup or something like that, I mean, we'll tap more into that I personality, the interactive, right? If we're having, an emotional conversation with our kids or significant others, like we get more into that S profile. Right?
Is it just people are more comfortable in each profile?
So we're all everything, but there's going to be one that dominates us on the regular. The crazy thing, like if you want to find out what your most dominant profile is, think about when you're sitting there with no stress. No, there's nothing pressing on you. The context, that whole second part that we talked about earlier, it's not influencing your behaviors. When we have anything influencing behaviors, your natural state is not really coming out. You're adapting to whatever your environment is. But if you're sitting there, there's absolutely no pressure. There's, what kind of person are you? When you're sitting at the beach and there's no, all your deals are closed, all your, whatever. Like there's no worries in life, right? What is your state like? Are you still pretty much a driver trying to get, stuff done when there's nothing to be done and thinking about 1,000 things, setting thresholds and looking for stuff to focus on? Are you looking to mingle with people? Are you just, in a peaceful state, more relaxed, introvert, kind of conversations going on, introspective conversations? Or are you sitting there analyzing, I wonder how many fish are there in the ocean and what the level of oxygen in the water is right now? That sort of thing. So if you want to find out what your main one is, this is a conversation you can have with yourself, but sit there and think about having no other influences just piling on top of you, triggering you to different behaviors, modalities. So all in all, man, it's pretty interesting, right? To get into the space of understanding. I like to get deep into that kind of stuff because it allows me to think or understand, people's perspective. It's all about communication, really. It's all about effective communication. If I say, we may be talking about the same thing, but if my tonality is different than yours, you can interpret that as being different, right?
Yep.
You can interpret it as an aggressive conversation when I'm just a loud dude from northern Mexico,
Right.
And that's how we talk. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's a lot of it is understanding, the how somebody else communicates. Once we do that, we can push whatever point we have, like just across the table in a way that they'll take it and they'll, okay, cool, actually listen to it. Not that they're going to agree with it automatically, but they'll actually listen to it. Why? Because we're communicating at the same frequency.
Love it. Guys, did I tell you this can be good? Did I tell you? Like, wow. So let's unpack that a little bit. I relate to so much of what you said, and I always try to think, like, which one am I? Like, I think it's crazy because, like, if my guard goes down, I'm I all day long. Like, I want to socialize. I want to be a social butterfly. But at first, I'm kind of shy. It takes a little bit to get that down. I think that comes from being the youngest. So I was the baby, mama's boy. And growing up, I saw, like, my mom get beat. And that just, like, kind of that put me in a shell because that was my mom. I was mama's boy, right?
Yeah.
I saw that happen. And that put me in a shell and kind of hid my natural self, which is that person that wants to always be social.
Yeah.
Right. But then there's times when I'm at the beach, right, to your point, where I'm like, I wonder this, I wonder that. I was walking through the airport the other day and I thought, I wonder how many people with my same size shoe has stepped exactly where I just stepped. Like, who thinks of that? Like, but that's what I thought. Like, how many people have actually walked through this airport? Millions and millions and millions of people. What's the odds that right there, right where I stepped, exactly there, same size shoe, stepped right there? Right? So that's me analyzing things. So I can relate that we have parts of all of them. Right? And there's times where I just like, I always want to get things done. There's also times where I just want to chill, you know? So how can somebody find out exactly what they are? There's a test, right?
Yeah, you can do a simple assessment. I mean, if you go to, actually, I think Tony Robbins has a free version of it. It's decent.
Okay.
And it's tonyrobbins.com/disc.
Okay.
Super simple. You go on there, you take an assessment, and then it'll give you a report. It's not a full, super robust report, but it still kind of gives you the, the main points, right? And you have a good north of okay, cool. This is right. This is off. Now, the thing about behavioral assessments, you can lie to them all you want, right?
So you got to be honest.
Yeah. So okay, exactly. So when you're taking a behavioral assessment, I mean, it's you having a conversation with you. Be honest with yourself, right? Okay, I'm really this person. I would like to be this answer, but in reality, like this is me. Yeah. So take it like that. Take it, from an honest standpoint. It's gonna be for you, and then just get some clarity on okay. On the primaries and secondaries and whatnot. And I think not that we don't have those answers. I feel like if anybody searches enough, they'll find it. But I think it just, when you see something and you have an image of it, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's why I do this when that happens. That's why think about your wife or your husband's out there, right? It's if you don't understand how they communicate, it's going to be easy to clash. Right. Now, when you understand, let's take it a step deeper. When you understand what triggers a certain behavioral profile, a certain personality, when you understand what creates fear in each one of those, behavioral profiles, when you understand what the main priorities or concerns are with each one of those behavioral, because we do have those. Like I said, we're algorithms. There's certain things that we gravitate towards. Because, or depending on the dominant profiles that we have, and when you understand those things, like it's a lot easier. It's almost hard to get pissed off. You know what I mean? It's almost hard to be upset at people because you understand what's triggering that person. And then we have the ability, because now we have this information, we have this new power, this new tool. Okay, cool. I can redirect the conversation and not trigger somebody when I'm trying to get my point across. So the crazy thing about that is that now it becomes a conversation with the ego, right? There's certain things, from our side of the table to that, there's certain things that we know we can say that we're going to trigger the heck out of that person. Now, do we leave our ego aside and get objective with, conversations? I mean, that's a whole different battle, right? But there's a lot of understanding that takes place and just gets a lot clearer when you have just a basic look at how people perceive stuff.
Guys, rewind what he just said right there. It struck a chord with me is ego. That's something that I've been trying so hard over the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years to really just put my ego aside with everything. I think back to, and I'll preface it with this. Ego, I heard this from, I think, Ed Milet. He says, ego stands for edging God out. So when you're edging God out, what good is going to come from that, right?
Yeah.
Ego, it's like all about me. It's all about me.
Yeah.
When really there's a higher power, whatever you believe in. I believe in Christ. But there's that higher power. If you're edging that out, bad things are going to happen. And I look back to like my relationship with my daughter's mom. Looking at it, she's polar opposite of me, and we clashed nonstop, right? But last like 3 or 4 years, we've gone on trips together out of the country. Her and her husband and me are like best friends, business owners together. Like we all get along so well because I put my ego aside. It's not all about me. It's about our daughter, right?
Yeah.
Try to understand where she's coming from more. As soon as I did that, our relationship got amazing, right? So the fact that you said like, look, it's just conversating with one person and you need to deliver that conversation, that communication, a way that they'll accept it. Not the way you want to do it because that's your ego. How can they accept it? Deliver it like that. And then it's just, it's communication at its finest. So dude, I love it.
Yeah, it really is, man. I mean, setting, for example, the ego aside was one of my biggest things. I didn't even realize I have no ego. Of course I have an ego.
Everyone does.
Yeah. And understanding what that sounds like, what that feels like, and what kind of noise it makes in my head, right? I feel it's not about turning it off because it does help me. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like I feel like it's another one of those, powers that we have as individuals that we can redirect, that we can actually tap into. Okay, I mean, there's some times where I need to get on seek and destroy mode or whatever, right? Because of business or something. I mean, we need to push things through it. I let my ego take over, but it's me letting the ego take over and going back to those, that hustle, breaking, walls with the forehead, kind of mentality and like, right. We need that. We need that as well. It's a tool, right? We can tap into it. But if you're being ran by it all the time, it's not a good thing. Now, the thing is to understand what it looks like, what it feels like and what it makes you do. How does it make you react? I mean, I remember at the beginning, me and my wife have been together close to 20 years now.
Wow.
And 17. And at the beginning, we used to have a lot of arguments, like stupid arguments, like stupid little things. And it was all ego. Like, okay, I just want to sound louder. Why? Because my ego wants me to sound louder.
You didn't close the toothpaste.
Yeah.
I had that argument before.
Yeah.
Wife kept the cap off
it
one
wasn't
time, and
about
I was
the
like,
toothpaste. It was about, I don't know, who's dominating right now. Like, who's the, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So again, it's all ego. Like, it's crazy the things that we will do when we're being led by it, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's sometimes my ego will help me do things that I wouldn't do. Like, for example, push through obstacles. I don't know, wake up earlier. No, I'm not gonna be, I'm gonna take my for example, waking up at 5 a.m, that sort of thing, right? Trust me, a lot of it is ego. Like, no, I have to wake up and do my workout because I don't, I want to look good. I want to do this. Like, I want to do that. It's and so we use it and we channel it, right? But when we understand who we truly are, what our purpose is, the bigger picture, I think the ego gets tamed. It becomes, it's kind of like, it goes from this, big, beastly dog into like this smaller, ankle, a little ankle biter, right? It's still noisy as heck, but it's there. it's that much smaller. It doesn't drive you so much.
Doesn't overpower you.
Yeah, it doesn't overpower you so much as when we don't know ourselves. And one of the biggest things is to really find the what are we doing in life that creates, that sense of purpose, that creates, to me, it's empowering entrepreneurship. Everything I do if you think about everything I do, everything leads to empowering entrepreneurship. This podcast right now is empowering entrepreneurship. What I do on the coaching program, what I do on the, on the wholesale side and the businesses, it's all empowering entrepreneurship. So to me, finding something, right, that is a something, it becomes a matter of logic. Like, okay, cool. Does this serve the purpose that I'm trying to serve? Or am I gonna get carried away by all these additional things that are being triggered by ego?
Yeah, dude, you touched on something that I think is so profound, and it's ego's not necessarily a bad thing if you are in control of it.
Yeah,
if it's in control of you, it's very bad, and control is something that I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful it is. With anything, think about if you're driving your car and the brakes go out. You've lost control of stopping the car, right?
Yeah.
So what happens? Your risk of crashing goes up, right? The second you lose control of anything, your risk profile goes up.
Yeah.
If I lose control of a real estate deal, risk goes up. I'm going to lose some money, right? If I lose control of my emotions, risk goes up that I'm going to freaking break out and start bawling at some place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so control is so important. And I think some people are control freaks and it helps them, right? Some people like just go with the flow and it doesn't help them.
Yeah.
Right? There's a certain balance that you need to have. And if you can control your ego, if you can control your money, if you can control your business, if you can control your emotions, you'll probably have a less risky life.
Yeah,
altogether.
You can mitigate a lot of the stuff that can, that's thrown at you.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it really comes down to that kind of stuff.
What are some of your strategies for like catching yourself when you kind of feel yourself losing control of the ego or losing control of anything?
It's a really good question. I mean, at this point, I feel like I understand when I'm out of character. And every morning, man, I talked about this on a meetup, and the phrase that I use, it's funny, but it makes sense. I mean, I do me in the mornings, right? And this is me waking up and spending time introspectively. So I'll journal, I'll write, I'll think about the stuff that's laid out in front of me throughout the day, and not really about the tasky to-do list, but the who am I question. Right? The I am question. Because it truly is a question. I feel like we evolve into that space on a daily basis. And I feel like whenever I don't do that because I wake up late, I'm tired, I had a long night, I you name it, right? I feel like the day starts getting away from me. So does my character, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So what I'll do is there's certain things that it's almost hard to see when you're out of character until like that emotion, that energy on those feelings just left. You know what I mean? For example, if I get triggered about something, one of the things that I'll do is I take deep breaths. It's such a simple practice, man, but if you force yourself to breathe when you feel like you're getting out of the hinges or going off the rails, like it's gonna slow you down. It's gonna buy you a little bit of time, and then you can just come back. Maybe not absolutely calm and collected, right? But it's gonna buy you a little bit of time before you open your big mouth and just show up out of character. Or don't show up, with your true self as opposed to showing up with your ego. But
good.
To me, is reminders in the morning, man. Like who are we? What are we here for? That sort of thing. What are we grateful for? It's not, and I think gratitude at this point almost becomes a cliche in personal growth, right? But it's it's really not. It's one of the pillars of everything, right?
So why do you do it in the morning? What's the reason behind that?
My mind is not as busy. It's throw the first email into the mix. Now I get sidetracked. Open social media, I get sidetracked. I start thinking about, my mind is always busy. It's always going 1,000 miles an hour. So for me, waking up, it's that space in the morning where, okay, cool, this is me finding me.
Mind is quiet.
Yeah.
The world is quiet if you get up early enough.
Quiet-ish. Yeah. Quiet-ish. Yeah, exactly. So I think it just, I mean, it sets everything up to move, in the right direction at the end of the day.
That makes sense. Yeah, I do the same thing in the morning. I feel like, because I get up at 4.
Yeah.
It's pretty quiet at 4. Like, there's not much going on. A lot of people are just snoozing till 8, 9 o'clock, wherever they sleep till. So most people are still asleep. And yeah, your mind is just kind of fresh. It's clear. So something we've talked about is journaling. I've never done it. I really should. I write down my goals almost every day as if I've achieved them. I'll say, I am this. I have that. I am, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So journaling, huge. I just don't know why I haven't done it, but speak to the importance of journaling and why you do it.
It clarifies your thoughts more than anything. I mean, we know how we feel. We know, I mean, the fact that we want to lie to ourselves sometimes, it's a different thing, but we know how we feel about things. We know how we, what we're thinking about things. But you know how we sit down sometimes and everything's just a cloud? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I have so many thoughts, so many emotions, so many things. I mean, I need to look at, I need to consider, I need, just so many things to be grateful for. Okay, line them up. Like, what are they? Oh, okay, and then you start. So when you start going, that way, that cloud, and you put it out on paper, you have to articulate it in a linear way. Our brains are wired to think linearly. Right now, even though we're having this conversation, we're talking, 100 different points. It's all one after the other. It's not all in a cloud, of thoughts. So when you write things down, it forces you, because you're putting pen to paper, it forces you to actually do it one by one. And it's more of a mechanical understanding of what you have, up here in the back of your head and all that cloud, mass, than clarifying it when you're writing it down. Now, when you write it down, it feels like putting a puzzle together, because you start journaling, and if you ever, as you practice, it truly is a practice. I mean, you'll start with, maybe, I don't know what to write. I mean, write down, I don't know what to write. Like, literally, whatever crosses your mind, whatever crosses your mind at that moment. I don't know what to write, but I feel like I'm grateful for whatever. And it may sound like a lot of, gibberish when you're writing it out. Right, but that thought is going to lead you to something different, something else. Next thing you know, you're breaking down ideas. You're breaking down, perspective. You're possible in stuff that you haven't even thought of, because you're feeding yourself through that linear thinking. So I mean, if you want to take a very objective approach to it, it forces you to be linear about stuff and clarifying things and in that form. Now, another really cool thing about it is, like, I go back to journals that I had, that I've had, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I'll look at the stuff that I wrote out and, manifested a bunch of that stuff. Some other stuff is like, oh, that was a terrible idea. I don't know.
Glad that didn't happen.
Glad that didn't happen. I was like, oh, I journaled about it, and then it happened, and I wish I could delete it.
X out.
X out, that sort of thing. But it really does. I mean, it just sets you up for a whole different view on things, and journal about the little things, journal about the big things, partnerships. Like, that's a big move, right? I'm in the middle of one of those right now, and it's trust me, like, there's volumes on stuff that I wrote down just on thoughts. Why? Because it's me speaking to myself and just clarifying my thinking behind it. It's I feel like a lot of times, man, we go out and we want to get advice from somebody outside of us, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's by experience, get into coaching, get into masterminds, but we forget to listen to what we truly want. People are going to give you advice and best practices and processes and systems and all that stuff based on their life, their experience, their priorities, but we can't leave out ourselves from the equation, right? We can't just absolutely listen to what other people have to say, what they've done, what their experience is, because it may not be in alignment with the stuff that we want as individuals, as human beings. We're human beings, not human doings. So when we sit down...
Human beings, not human doings.
Yeah.
That's dude, I like that.
And we have to think about that right as we craft this entrepreneurial life that we're building right in front of us. So the best way for me to talk to myself, I forget 90% of the stuff that I think about. I don't know about you, but I do.
Everyone does, yeah.
So So when I write it down, it's like, oh, that makes sense. And it's like me having a conversation with myself, clearing out that cloudiness that's happening in my thoughts, getting it linear and getting proactive with it in terms of understanding it better, understanding my own ideas. And sometimes I go back to it, it's like, man, that was really good. Like that was really like, I'll feel proud of myself. And then I'll turn the page and it's like, oh, I don't know what I was, that was awful.
Who was that
but,
guy?
Yeah, but you start listening to your own conversation, man. It's a really cool experience. I mean, that we can create on a daily. It doesn't even take that much.
Dude, I love it. There's a couple things that I took from that is one is everything's linear.
Yeah.
Right? I never really thought about that, but everything literally is linear, and we gravitate towards that as human beings, not human doings. But I think of it like this, like I'm a car guy. I love cars, right? And most people really love that are car people, love a car that is linear in power. You know what it's going to do. That's why a lot of people that have a turbo, they don't like the turbo lag because it's not linear. Step on the gas, like, and then it goes. Opposed to a linear like V10, V8, naturally aspired, it's just linear power.
Yeah.
We gravitate towards those things because we're geared that way. We're wired that way, right?
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you said linear because now I'm going to start thinking about things in that way. So I love that. Absolutely love it.
Think about systems and processes in business, dude. Like they have to be assembly-like or assembly line-like.
Lead comes in.
Yeah, lead comes
bam,
in.
Bam,
What do you
bam,
do?
bam.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about that kind of stuff, right? The fact that a lot of businesses out there don't have it, all laid out, it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen in a linear format.
Right.
Like lead comes in, you don't go straight to, to a check.
Right.
Like
there's
there's a bunch
nice.
of it'd be nice, but there's a bunch of stuff that happens. It's when we're doing the transaction and all that stuff. But everything is linear. I mean, the Ford assembly line, it's linear. Why? Because we have that on the outer world. Why wouldn't it be the same? Think about when you wake up in the morning, your mind being a train of thoughts. It's literal. The phrase, I have a train of thought. No, we have an entire train of thoughts the entire day. Like it's one after.
Are you saying like a train, like a choo-choo train?
Like a choo-choo train.
Choo-choo
Train. Yeah. So you have one box behind the other, and each box has, their own thought, okay, this second I'm thinking about traffic. The next second I'm thinking about my kids, recital. The next second I'm thinking about, business systems and processes. And these are all just, it's one train just hauling your thoughts throughout the day.
Because you can't have two thoughts at the exact same time.
No, they're happening. We may think we do, but it doesn't work that way. Like we're looking at one thing specifically. Right now, you're listening to what I'm saying specifically to this thing. You forgot about the other conversation that it's still in your radar, but right now you're focused on this one thing, right? So it's literally like we're looking at one thing in terms of thoughts at a time. Like that's how it works.
That is so profound.
There's one meditation that I like. Wayne Dyer calls the getting in the gap.
Wayne Dyer, okay.
Wayne Dyer, my boy. But
you're my boy, Blue.
My boy, Blue. No, I mean that's been one of the most I feel profound authors when it comes to meditating, finding yourself, but he has this meditation, getting in the gap, and the whole idea behind it is to create a gap of peace between those thoughts. So think about it, right? Like the second we open social media. We get derailed. Like our own thoughts are not our own thoughts anymore. We're looking at something coming in. We turn on the TV, something coming in. We're watching the football game. This information coming in. You and I, having this conversation right now, even though it sounds like it's original, it's still based on the context, right? So it's something coming in to my mind. But when do we actually listen to our own mind? If you don't take the time, the intentional time to do that kind of stuff, you're never going to listen to yourself. You're never going to hear yourself out. Gosh, that's crazy to me.
That's
good. That's crazy to me.
That's so good. Guys, it's so good. Rewind that last 5 minutes and re-listen to it, please, because it is so freaking good. Like the fact that our thoughts are a train. Yeah. So trains have the carts, right? Mm-hmm. Each one is the thought that you're looking at that one given time. And I am a firm believer that you cannot multitask. You can't do it because of that point. You've got a singular focus. So if I am doing one thing, I can't do something else because my thought process is here. It's not there. I can't split them.
Yeah.
Right. And then the whole part about like social media and TV, I get on my wife about this probably more than she likes, but I don't consume social media. I don't scroll. I just don't do it because I don't want to populate my brain with things that I don't choose to populate it with.
Yeah.
Right. So I create content and I'll respond to people and do that kind of thing, but I'm not sitting there just scrolling. And she'll do it and she'll say, hey, did you hear what happened in blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no. How would I hear about that? She's like, well, because it's on here and it's part of the news. I'm like, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
Someone getting bombed in some other country, as bad as this sounds, guys, it doesn't affect my life.
Yeah.
Right? But the second I focus on it, it's putting thoughts in my mind that people are bad, people are aggressive, they bomb people, there's shootings going on. I don't want to think about that. So my life is pretty dang good and pretty safe because I don't bring these energies into my life.
Yeah.
I don't focus on them. So
I love that, man.
so much that what you talked about is just profound. Like the train, because I can visually see the train, boom, boom, boom. I can only look at this one card at the time. Once I take my eyes off that, now it's this one. Those are your thoughts.
Yeah.
It's freaking profound, dude. So good. So good. I love it. So you do everything in the morning, writing down your goals, writing down, doing the journaling and talking to yourself, which is amazing. I need to do more of that. Hold me accountable to it, please.
All right. Oh, game on, homie.
I want to start doing it. But so let's talk about then, let's go into a little bit of like the family life. You touched on that you've been married for almost 20 years. How many kids? You have 2, right?
Yeah, 3.
3, that's right.
Yeah, 11-year-old, 16-year-old, and my 22-year-old daughter.
Got it. The 16-year-old has like washboard abs. He's a stud.
Yeah.
Just that's gonna be a problem.
It's silly.
But how do you balance everything, man? Because I know that you believe that business in general is a seasonal thing, right? So talk on the fact that business is not something you do all the time, and if it is, you're going to get burnt out probably.
So, no, I think business is I mean it's the train that gives us the power to do stuff, right? Like it just takes us places. I think hustle. We get caught in the hustle, and that gets prolonged. So we're hustling through life, not through this stage of business. That's why I'm big on systems and processes and automations and that sort of thing, right? It's because we have to. Whenever you're starting something, you have to launch it, and then there's definitely hustle season to get things up and running, but we have to step back. Why? It's because everything else, again, like going back to that thing, that we're human beings, not human doings. I mean, it's not, my life is not about being at work all the time. It's not about just, doing stuff. It's about sitting with myself, sitting with my family, and sometimes I get carried away. So me and my, at home, we have this thing, like I'm on work mode. Like if you see me, I'll tell my wife, like I'm going on work mode this week because there's some crazy stuff happening. So that's her cue for her to pull me out of work mode when I can't see it. So it's almost like a team effort. And it's not, her bashing me like you're working too much or whatever. It's like, hey, you haven't eaten, in the last 12 hours, because I'm focused on, and it's easy. I feel like, we have, there's always going to be a sense of overachievement if you're an entrepreneur, right? You want to do things right, and then when you get that done, you want to do something bigger, and it's just like the thing is always going. We have to tame it. We have to create some type of counterbalance because there's people around us, there's life around us, right? It's not all about the work. The work is going to give us opportunities, experiences, get us to great, beautiful places. But really, think about your happiest moments. Like I know my happiest moments are when I'm with people. It's my people. It's like those are my happiest moments. So it's not about that performance 24/7. It's a fulfillment, and I feel like we can get to a point where it's almost an ego fulfillment. But having that counterbalance, that thing that's gonna pull you out of that performance mode and doingness mode into that beingness mode, being a parent, being a friend, is important, whatever that is, right? I mean, if for us it's simple. I mean, we do a simple disconnect, go out to the beach, I'm gone. Like I disappear. Like there's absolutely no desire to check my emails. Like there's very few things, and that get me to that space. But it's one of the hacks, one of the the personal mental hacks.
Is it always the beach for you?
The beach does it, man.
I've been researching this recently. I can tell you why.
Okay, shoot.
It's energy.
Yeah.
There's more energy with the beach. There's that current coming in, and it just revitalizes you. Have you heard getting grounded?
Yeah.
So there's a thing about the beach. We take our shoes off.
Yeah.
We have our sand. Our feet are in the sand. We're grounded to Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which humans are, I don't know, 200,000 years old?
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know the exact timeline. But back then, before iPhones, before all this stuff, before Nikes, before Jordans,
before Air Nikes,
we had our feet on the ground. We were grounded. We were planted, right? We didn't have our phone.
Yeah.
We were here. It was connection. It was energy. So everything is one, if you will. Everything is energy. So everything is one. You and I are one. This water is one. You drink it, you end up peeing it out, goes up into the clouds, somehow it comes back down filtered, like, right? It's all one. So I think that is why you prefer the beach to unwind, because it gets you closer to being one with everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, 1,000%. One of my great friends, Brent, his thing.
Daniels?
Yeah, Brent Daniels. His thing is the
Shout
forest.
out TTP.
Shout out, my boy. His thing is the forest. Like, he loves the cabin. So I actually took him down to the beach. He loved the beach, this spot that I go to on a regular. A couple of weeks ago, and we spent a weekend over there. It was a great time and everything. And he looks at me and goes, "This is your cabin, huh?" I was like, "Yes, this is my cabin." But I feel like we have to find that space, call it a space, right? That space that's gonna draw you out from that wanting to, or it's gonna slow down your mind. If you're a high performer, if you're always on top of the horse and you feel like you're hustling through life all the time, there's got to be something that just kind of helps you pump the brakes a little bit. We need that. We need to stop along the way and smell the roses,
100%.
right? Because we have to be. We have to be with with the people, the friends, the situations. If we don't take time for that, we're always going to be caught in the hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're running your own business; it's still going to be a grind and a hamster wheel if you don't have that time to be yourself. I mean, think about it, right?
So me and my business partner have had this idea for a while. Maybe I shouldn't say it on here because someone might steal it, but it's a lifestyle brand. Just be
Nice.
Because, like, to your point, the happiest times in your life is when you're just being. You're not worried about tomorrow. You're not worried about the past. You're in the present, fully engulfed in it, and observing things. The more observational we get in our lives, the clearer everything gets, right? So I can really observe you right now and just focus on you, and the conversation is going to be better than if I was in my phone.
Yeah.
Which would be really weird on a podcast. I'm like checking text messages. But, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more you observe things in your life, the more clear things get.
Yeah.
The more granular they get, right? If I really start observing this table and just focus on one, like narrow my focus to a little quarter inch, I can start really seeing different things. But the second I look up, I can't see much from my peripheral, right? So when we can just be, everything slows down. Life is more fulfilling, and you don't need millions of dollars in the bank. You don't need millions of people that have your back. You need you and a couple of people, and just be. I love it, dude.
You're gonna find. I think we all find that happy, that happy place, the sphere, right? Because at the end of the day, there's only so many things that we can impact. I mean, it's maybe at a household level, at a local level, maybe state level, but there, your sphere of impact is gonna be, this. It's. I feel a lot of times we can get carried away and it was like, I want to have worldwide impact on this. Yeah, but we have to begin at home. Like we have to grow into that space as we're going through it.
Right.
In contemplation really is one of the biggest, things. I feel like, I don't know, most of the things have already been invented. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff coming up, but it's really adaptations of what's, the new things that are adaptations and combinations of things that are, thought of in the past and invented in the past and
To
whatnot.
make things faster, make them better.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot, but a lot of it is contemplation. One of my favorite historical figures to study is Leonardo da Vinci. The guy, I mean, he's got volumes of just notebooks and whatnot, and he would sit there and then just study, the beak of a bird, and then contemplate that beak of that bird. Like, this is pretty interesting, but like for years. Like, okay, the form it does this, and he would sit there just until he found a resolution to whatever the question was, right? So it's patience is not one of my virtues, but it's one of the things that I've learned to kind of sit down with and have more of. If I'm trying to understand something, it's gonna take time, right?
Right.
Like I'm not computing, all the data and putting it all together to understand and make it logical. Sometimes it's an artful approach to understanding. Sometimes it's an inner conversation that's required as opposed to doing a nuts and bolts conversation.
Right.
And I mean that's important to understand too, because we have. I mean, you were asking me about the family life, right? And how to balance the going into business all the time, and I think that's what it comes down to. Like it's if we're logical all the time and we forget about that human connection. If we're nuts and bolts all the time, we forget about the art side. We forget about the energy that we're creating in the space that we're in. Like one of them is going to be off of balance. Again, what I do is when I'm going into that space where I'm just going all out and I'm on work mode, I have a fail-safe. What's my safe? My wife. Hey, like you've been at it for whatever. And I have a home office where I work out of, or I have a office, right? So the thing is, I'll take work home sometimes, and then because I'm on that train of thought, I'm on that the seek and destroy mode. I'll keep going at it for a few hours, but she draws me out of that. Like I feel like we got to have a counterbalance between the nuts and bolts of everything that's happening around us, and then the us, the life. What are we doing all this work for if it's not because of that? It's easy to overlook that kind of stuff.
So true. Like you could make all the money in the world, but if you don't have anyone to share it with, what good is it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or let's say you have all the time in the world, but you've got no money, so you guys are just broke and hurting and sick, right? So there is a counterbalance.
100%.
Or a balance, not a counterbalance. There is a balance there. So, dude, I freaking love you, man. Like your mind, just the way it works is incredible.
Love you too, bro.
Your heart. I hope that people are really getting a lot from this and they're learning from you, because I learned a ton from you. Just the way you think about things, and takeaways I've had is the linear approach to how everything is linear is incredible. The choo-choo train,
Choo-choo train.
Your thoughts being the train, your train of thoughts. That's literally the same.
Literal expression.
Like that is mind blowing to me, and just the way you look at business, because you're always looking at making things more efficient so that you can buy back your time, right? So if business is going well and it's very efficient, you have systems and processes in place, you are making good money, but you don't have to be there all the time. Right? So you're making good money, so now you can focus on the family life and not be stressed out about the business. Right? So talk about that a little bit, how you kind of systematize things within your business to make it like that. So
I reverse engineer a lot of the things I do. It's and I feel like it may seem like it's a lot of work to start creating systems right out of the gate, but even if you're a solopreneur, if you don't have a team behind you, like someday you will, right? Take the time to just document everything that you're doing. Okay, what are the steps? I mean, and it doesn't have to be super complicated. Do it in bullet point format, right? What that's going to do is going to clarify it for you. So next time you go through it, and for example, I'll use wholesaling as a context. If you're going through your first wholesale transaction, yeah, you're going to get a lot of information out there. You're going to see, people doing things this way, that way, and whatnot. But when you actually start writing stuff down and like all the micro steps and each one of the steps that you're taking, you're going to see a lot and uncover a lot more about that process. Now, what happens is that when we have this stuff and it's documented, we know what to hire for. We know where to plug people into, right? And we can start slowly stepping away from the business. It doesn't happen overnight. Like you're not gonna, man, it kills me when somebody has, I don't know, they have 50, 100K available to build a business and they want to dump it all into the team because they have money to, hire people and whatnot. No, like you still, if you don't understand the process or the vertical, you still have to take the time to learn. So you're dangerous enough in it,
right?
Like that. So you don't have to be the expert, but just know enough that you're dangerous in the aspects of the business. Because guess who's going to be at the coaching end of that team, of that company? Like it's going to be you. At the end of the day, we're owners, CEOs and whatnot. But if something goes awry, it's our responsibility to show up for that, right? So systemizing everything is huge, man. And I got into this because I was doing a lot of redundant work at the beginning. My first company was a transportation company, non-emergency medical transportation. So I used to do wheelchair and stretcher patient transport. And I managed to get contracts with the state. So I was contracted by insurance companies and we'd get paid, that way and whatnot. Now, with the transportation business, I bootstrapped that whole thing. We had to take people to and from medical appointments, right? I can take one patient to and from a medical appointment, but I can't take two at the same time. You know what I mean? Because I'm driving one van. So when I started the business, I was a driver, I was a dispatcher, I was, it was totally bootstrapped. So I had to figure out, how do I hire somebody else? I brought them in. And then now that I have them, like, it's not just about taking somebody and then dropping them off at the doctor's appointment. Like, there has to be some type of checks and balances. So I went back to what I learned at the fire department. We had SOPs, standard operating procedures. If it's a residential fire and we had, two people in the fire truck, we would do two-man pack attack. And there was, certain steps that, that went along with that, right? Mm-hmm. Like somebody pulls a hose, the other one's engineers. So this whole thing, right? And I started thinking about that. I was like, all right, cool. I need SOPs. Why? Because like they need to know what to do when I'm not there and I'm driving other people around. So it kind of like it was, I feel like it was forced onto me. The fact that I had to systemize this thing, otherwise it wasn't going to pan out. Right. And then once I figured that out, it's like, oh, I can hire a third person and they just follow the SOP. And I started making training protocols. I think one thing that was a big benchmark was I built this entire training program for drivers who were coming into the company. And I just had it, I had an onboarding process and I built this into a 2-week training and, what happened on a daily basis. And it took me a while to figure that out, but I kept documenting everything that we were doing. So I just, went out and wrote it out in linear format. And then we started doing trainings and field days and in classroom days and whatnot. So I put this thing that was pretty decent, right? And then it came time to renew the insurance. And the insurance said, well, if you had a training protocol, we could probably give you a discount. And I was paying close to $1,000 per vehicle on insurance a month. And it's a big hit, right? And so I was like, wait, I do have a training protocol. So I gave them the training protocol and they gave me a 40% discount. So we went down to $600, saved the company a ton of cash. I was like, wow, okay, so systems and processes, they help me, just delegate stuff. They help me grow. They save me cash. Like, no, forget it. Like
I'm doing more of these.
I'm doing more of these. Yeah. And that's been my MO. So anytime I jump into a business now or a venture or a project, I reverse engineer. Right, I figure out, okay, what's the ultimate outcome? Like, what's the final thing that I want to get out of this, this thing, right? If it's a flip, right? We're looking, okay, the money, the wire is in the bank account, the property is sold. But what happened right before then? Before I had to send, we had to record. Before the recording, what happened? We had to check the settlement statement. Before the settlement statement, we had to send wiring information. Before the wiring information, we had to do a final walkthrough. Well, before the final walkthrough, we had to, set up signatures, right? So it's reverse engineering everything. We can do this on any business, man.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're making hats, like, okay, you have the hat and you sold it, you got paid for it. What happened right before? The provider went to the retail store, the transportation. So, whatever that is. But it's not that difficult to start buying back the time if we get intentional about building the process, right? So we reverse engineer it and then we just ride it forward.
Got it. And you know what's crazy? I'd never noticed this before, but you do this all the time. And I know now because linear.
Yeah.
You just explained that all linear going backwards, right?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
It's the way we think. So if we think and we do, like it's going to click, right?
For sure. Dude, this has been, I wish we could go for just hours upon hours. I think we've been over an hour now.
It's a blast, man. Time with you flies.
Dude, for real, man. Like the crazy part is it's almost like surreal that we're here doing this interview because a little bit of background so you guys know, when I got into real estate, it was October 2019 and I didn't know what to do. So I'm just consuming content. I was watching Real Estate Disruptors. I watched like every episode.
Shout out to Steve.
Yeah, Steve Trang. So I'm asking everyone questions on there just so I can get feedback, right?
Yeah.
So I remember watching you on Steve's pod, and I was like, dude's he's Hispanic looking, kind of like me. Looks like he might be short in shape. I kind of just vibed with your look. And then the way you explained things and like how your mind worked, I was like, I got to meet that dude. And then I ended up meeting you like 2 months later at the batch office.
Yeah.
Right? And then, dude, we've just become homies. And
well, a month later, I think you were at my birthday party at my house.
Yeah. So I was at one of the meetups and you're like having a birthday at, I think it was Steve Trang's meetup at Dave & Buster's.
Yeah. I think that's where we
were chatting it up. You had just started your podcast and you said it was your birthday coming up. You're like, hey, you want to come to my birthday party? I'm like, yeah. So like I'm at this birthday party with all these successful entrepreneurs in real estate, and just to think that was basically 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting here having a conversation. What you guys can take from that is consume content that's going to get you somewhere, but then start taking action.
Yeah.
Start taking
100%
action, because the more action you take, luck favors the people that are taking action, right? If you're just sitting in your house doing nothing's really going to happen to you. You're probably going to eat some potato chips and some pizza and get out of shape, right?
Yeah.
But if you're all the time just shaking and moving and putting action behind the things you've learned, you're going to make the right connections. You're going to start doing certain things, getting around the right people, and making some moves. So
even if you don't have the full picture, right? Like a lot of times the analysis paralysis gets in the way, and even if you don't have the full picture of what you want to do, like, okay, cool. I mean, I feel like I got to have a conversation with this person. I feel like I got to go to that event. That action is going to open up a different window that you can look out to. It's like, oh, okay. It's kind of like, climbing when you go hiking, you climb a hill. It's like, okay, that's the top of the hill, and then you see another hill. All right. It's the same action is going to give you the context for the next thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, guys, hope you got a lot from it. Share this episode with anyone that you love and care about, because I think they can get so much value from it. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, put some comments down, and, how can they connect with you? How can they get a hold of the one and only Rafael Cortez?
First off, well, thank you very much, bro, for the invite. I'm pretty active on social media. If you want, shoot me a DM on Instagram at Rafael Cortez CEO. And yeah, I mean, pretty easy to get a hold of. So
if you guys are looking for
YouTube
coaching,
channel,
entrepreneur coaching, real estate coaching for wholesaling, retail side, because you also are a broker, right?
Yeah.
So on the retail side, the wholesale side, if you're looking for coaching with that, if you're looking at coaching for any kind of business, because to your point, these steps that you go through can be used with any business.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be real
1,000%.
estate. It could be shoe sales. It could be a software on an app, right? It could be anything.
Yeah.
So reach out to Rafael. He will pour into you. I've seen him do it with his students. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. Share this with everybody. Until next time. Love you guys. Peace.